Hello, and welcome to another instructional video on the MiSTer FPGA system. Today we'll be looking at the Super Nintendo and Super Game Boy cores. I have pulled up here the GitHub page for the Super Nintendo core, and also we have the Super Game Boy core. I'll go ahead and link these in the description. There's not a ton of information, but there's some good information here, and the Super Game Boy one looks like a little bit more helpful on that. Also, there's some information on the turbo core option. There is a turbo core option which can make certain games run a little faster, and it's kind of neat to be able to use that for some games that had some slowdown. It kind of improves them, and there's information there. So I'll put that link there if you're interested in it. There also is there's an SA1 ROM hack for Gradius 3 if you're interested, and I think you can just get the ROM hack version of that and then just use that. You don't have to use the accelerator or anything like that. But it's a similar, you can trade them off and experiment and see what you like with that. And also I found this other documentation page that explains a lot of stuff on the SNES and has a couple little videos too. So you can take a look at those. I'm going to go ahead and link all of these in the description below. So from there, I will go ahead and copy some files over. So let me get my program up that I like to use, which is WinSCP. I'm going to connect to the MiSTer at this IP address. Yours may vary, or it likely will be different from mine. So you're going to need to look up what the IP address is of yours, and I will show you that when we get over to the MiSTer system, how to look that up. And then that's the one you want to punch in here. I have another separate video on how to copy files and such that explains in detail how to do WinSCP and set it up. If you prefer a different SFTP program and you're familiar with it, go ahead and use that. But these are the settings that you'll need at least. It's just a file protocol SFTP, port number 22, the default ones for that. And then whatever the IP address is of your MiSTer, or if you did something fancy and set up a host name for it, then it'd be that. But IP address is usually fine. Username is root, and the default password is the number 1, just a single digit 1. All right, let's log in. Okay, so what you want to go is Media Fat Games SNES. That's the folder where the SNES games go. Now, before I copy them over, I'll just ask that if you're interested, if you want to like and subscribe or leave a comment or whatever, even do the notification bell if you like. It's up to you, but just reminding you in case you're interested and might have forgot. So let's copy over some files. I have some interesting things I'm going to show you on those. So we're going to copy over these files. So these are all playable by the core. So I'm going to upload those 4 files into there. And this actually will take a minute and a half or so, something like that. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment. Okay, it's just about done. Just a few seconds left here, I think. And we'll have those files copied over. Thank you for waiting. Although you didn't have to sit through most of it. And this took a little while because I copied over one that has MSU1 enhancements. So it's rather large, and I'll show you about how that works. What that is there's this one. This is actually Lifeforce, which was on the NES, and someone ported it over to the SNES and enhanced it with PCM files, which the MSU1 stuff, right? So here's all the those files, and they get kind of big, but and you can't have them zipped up. You just have to have them in a folder like this. I don't think you need like the PNG for the box file or the READMEs and stuff, but you can look at the README if you have questions about how this particular game works. If you go find that under the place where you can find those things. All right, and this one, Chrono Trigger, is a Satellaview game. It's actually a library. It plays the Chrono Trigger songs, but I just got that. I thought that'd be kind of neat to show off the Satellaview stuff. I got Mario Paint just to show off the mouse, so that works. I got the Mayan Adventures, which is actually just the soundtrack of the Mayan Adventures, so I can show you how that works on there because it will play the just the sound files. So that's all of that for the SNES, the normal regular SNES core. Now I have these two. I'm just going to copy over, I think, this one. This is a core that does save states. It's not out yet. It's still in development. I guess it's mostly done, but I don't know. You know, they don't merge it in until they feel it's ready or they have time or whatever to do that. And this has been ready since, or it's been in this stage since like around April of 2025, so of last year, as the time of this recording. That was last year. Um, anyway, so that's where this is. So in order to get it, this particular one I found on the MiSTer FPGA forums. So if you get a login, sign in there, you want to get it, you want to try it out, you can do that, or you can wait for it to come down. It depends on how badly you want save states, because that's what it's for. But I'll show you. I'll show you it working so that you see that it exists. Just demonstration purposes. So what we want to do is we want to go up to here, and we're going to put, since this is an unstable core, we're going to put this over here in unstable and just upload it over like that. Now, the thing about this is you don't need like a special unstable version of the MiSTer core. So the MiSTer main core is good. So all you gotta do is copy this in. If you look it up on the MiSTer FPGA forum, or if you are in the MiSTer Discord, you can go look it up there. I'm not gonna show you how to go there or whatever. You have to go search it out yourself. Um, I personally find the MiSTer Discord very difficult to navigate, so I don't really recommend it for most people unless you're diehard into it. Um, a lot of times, just waiting for the core is a good idea. It depends if there's a fancy issue or if it's easy to get. Like if you can get it from GitHub, I'm fine with that. For me, that's good enough. And I do occasionally go in there and look it up, but um, for the most part, I prefer going on to just the regular web page because it's just easy to link and all that sort of stuff, you know, and find it. Anyway, if you're interested in it, go look it up and you can put it there or you can wait for it to come down. But I just wanted to show you that that's, in progress. All right, so that goes in there under unstable. And then we go back to games, and there's a Super Game Boy folder, SGB, and we copy those files over there, which actually I already did earlier. That's the Space Invaders one, which was the only one to use the feature where you could actually load up sort of Super Nintendo ROM into it. And that's the reason why I did this one, because it has a unique feature. That's the one unique feature that this will do. Now I realized that there is a Space Invaders, just a regular Space Invaders was released for the Super Nintendo. So you could just get that game and play it, and it's the same. This is my understanding of it. But I actually had the Super Game Boy, and I had the Space Invaders Game Boy cartridge. So it's sort of, it's nostalgic for me. So I like to play it that way when I play it on the MiSTer, to truly recreate that experience, and it proves that it is like Super Game Boy accurate. I believe the normal Game Boy core can do all the other like the fancy borders and stuff. So we can get into that when we get to the Game Boy video for the Game Boy core. We'll take a look at that then. And then this one's a special one, which will prove that it is actually a Super Game Boy working, because this will only work on a Super Game Boy. It's a special uh, game that does stuff that you're not supposed to do in a Game Boy game, because it will only work with Super Game Boy. But it's just a sort of proof of concept, and it's fun to play around with, and I'll just do that to demonstrate that it does actually work like a Super Game Boy. And I think that's all I need to show you as far as setting up and copying over files. So we're going to go over, I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to switch over to the MiSTer. Pause here while I'm doing that, just for a second. There we go. And we're on the MiSTer side. So let me show you how to get to the IP address information. So we go back and then we go to the left, and then there's the IP address, which you see is the same as what I had in there, and that's what I connected to copy over to it. Yours is going to be different. Use whatever yours is. Pretty simple stuff. All right, so we're going to go back to console, and we're going to go down to SNES. All right, so let's go ahead and load. Actually, I'll do the SPC file first, which is an audio file. So if you have an SPC file, which is the recorded soundtrack from a Super Nintendo game, or just in that format, even if it's not from a game that somebody just, made chip tunes or whatever, it's like this. Now, you can do it. You can have the zipped, as you saw, you can have zipped files, and it just unzips them. So we can go ahead and do this from the Pitfall of the Mind Adventure. And there you hear that. Might turn it up a little bit. There, I think it's a little bit better. But this player is very simple and basic, and it doesn't look like you can switch tracks or anything like that. At least not in this version with this particular file. So you'd have to reload it and then load a different song. If you wanted to listen to that. But that's how it works. It's pretty good. It's kind of a neat little extra that the core can do. All right, so now let's show some other things off. The SFC, SMC, and bin files are all pretty much the same. It can load those and figure out the differences. It's just like a little different formatting of them, as how the ROMs are. The BS ones are different because they're like a Satellaview thing, so it requires Satellaview support. So we're going to take a look at one of those as well. So let's do that now, since we're in the music thing, and see it's a .bs. So this will load up the Satellaview. So this is the part in the core that has the Satellaview stuff, There are ROM hacks available for the Zelda games, for example. All right. This is also Satellaview stuff. Whoops. I'm just gonna put in Drake here. All right. Welcome to MiSTer Satellaview support. See, it's built into the MiSTer. And this was just like this format of how you could use the service and go do stuff and play around with it, depending on what was being broadcast. I'm not super familiar with it because I didn't live in Japan when they had this, so I don't know how it works that well. But now it's neat to see this. And then you go in here, and then you download your games or whatever that you have. So I'm going to load stored data. And this is the game that you saw me just load. Or load in the MiSTer system. Now I loaded it into the Satellaview system. Okay, so we can play Chrono Trigger songs. This is the the intro with the clock and all that. You can go up and play different music from Chrono Trigger. That was just built into this particular thing. But that's really neat that you can play around with it and it supports it. The native stuff that supports if you want. There are some that have been converted that'll work just regular, so that's there too. Some of them won't work, like the Zelda ones actually require certain things, so they have to be modified, and that's why you have to have the ROM hacks for them if you want to play those. So that's that. All right, so now we're going to go to Lifeforce and load that up. So if you look up Rumble Mints, you can find his conversions from. He's converted a lot of NES games over to SNES, which are just fun because you can, but it also adds this support. Now this is really loud, so I'm going to change this playlist. But there are several different playlists. For some reason, the metal one is really cool, but it's loud and it drowns out the sound effects even. There's the synth one. I'm gonna do the arcade one. So I'm on the NES version, but I'm playing the arcade music. And I don't know why it has Blaster Master there instead of, Lifeforce, but it does. All right, we're gonna say hit start, and you can cycle by hitting L and R. You can cycle through the color palettes if you want. Let's see, that sounds exactly like the arcade, if you are familiar with the arcade audio. Pretty cool. So I'm gonna play this a little bit just to sort of show you that it works, you know? And that I'm bad at it, I guess. I want to go up here for some reason. Whoa! Man, I remember playing this back in the day. Obviously, it didn't sound like this, but... Yeah. So, I'm not very good at it, and that shows you that. Let's see. You can also, of course, play regular Super Famicom, Super NES games. So I'm just gonna leave it there and load up a different one. The only other one I have loaded up is Mario Paint that I copied over. I didn't copy over one of the other ones, which I was thinking I could have. Now the reason I want to show you this, of course, is to show you that it does have support for it. There are cheats. Apparently for this game too. So there you go. It can show you. Although that seems odd that it would be like one-hit kill boss. Stuff like that. I don't know. But there are cheats for games. If you want, if you want them. It's kind of neat that they're there, that it works. Also, autosave, I recommend turning that on. So that's if you have a game where it saves data, like a Zelda game or something like that. All right, so here's your input options. It does support Miracle Piano, but you basically got to have that set up with a snack. And I don't have one of those, so I can't show you it working, but it does support it. So you have to turn the mouse on in port 1, and then, as it loads up, see, you can do Mario Paint. And it does actually work. You can click on Mario or something. Ugh. And see stuff. And start up, you can draw whatever, and it changes the palette there a little bit, stuff like this. Stamps, what have you. And mess around with it, so it works. And then here's the undo dog, right? Only does your last move. But there you go. So that works. And that's really all there is to see with the SNES one. It's not too complicated, but I just want to show you some neat things that it supports. There's probably other neat little features, that I'm unaware of, but it's nice. And see, there it was doing the save, so I could show that off. Let's see. So that's that. Okay, and now I want to show you the core that has the save states. So we're going to go into the unstable and load this one, which I showed you earlier. And it's the same, but you can see there's save state stuff here. And so we're going to look at that. It is on by default. Save states.1, all that sort of stuff. So let's try to load up a game. Let's do the Lifeforce one. This is where I should have put in a different game so you have one more game to look at, but there we go. Let's do the X68000 one. All right. Okay. And we'll start. I don't remember what button to do saves. I think you just I think you do it from the thing. So let's test this out. I have not tested this out before. Wow. That sounds super orchestral. Neat. Wow. Okay. So let's do this. Yeah, Alt F1. All right. So now we're gonna load state. It goes back here. So I can even do this. I can like die or game over, right? And then I can load state and be back here. So, you know, it works. So there you go. That's that. Okay, so next we're going to do the Super Game Boy core. All right, so you have to load a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy game. And I'm going to load Space Invaders. Okay. Now, you'll notice it's not doing anything, and that's because I haven't set up. You do have to load the SGB BIOS. The reason why is it doesn't have it configured the first time because there's two. Obviously, there's the Super Game Boy, and then there's a Super Game Boy 2, which only came out in Japan, which is they kind of fixed it so it wasn't. I think it's slightly fast on the Super Game Boy, and it's like the proper speed on the Super Game Boy 2, I believe. But anyway, save state to SD card. So there are save states in this. That's probably for the Game Boy stuff, right? Because the Game Boy has save states. All right, so let's load this BIOS. I'm gonna load the regular one because that's what I have. That's what I had back in the day. And now it loads. Now you only have to do that once, but if you wanted to change it to the other one, the Super Game Boy 2, then you could go in there and you'd load the other one. But that'll save your settings, so it'll automatically load next time you load up the core. So you can go to Super Game Boy, play it like on a Super Game Boy with Enhance, or you can play the arcade mode. So I'm going to do that because that is the neat feature of this. It's actually an SNES game, and this is what proves that it is doing the SNES, doing an actual Super Game Boy. And I'll just play a little bit of it just to show you, you know, all the options and like that. But it was so cool that it has this in, you know, in there. So I'll just play a little bit here, just for demonstration purposes. This is the first arcade game I played ever. Back when I was a little kid, like 6 years old or something. See if I could do a whole screen or whatever you want to call it, level screen. No, I didn't get that guy. Did not get the UFO. Oh, he got me. Oh, come on. Am I really that bad? Probably. Got him. All right, so there's that. Now I'm going to show you this special game made for it because I wanted to do that, to test the MiSTer and test the game and all that sort of stuff. This only works on Super Game Boy because it uses special instructions, L and R to open the menu, and it uses these, uses these icons basically, and that's all I got to do, and then you can close it, and then press B to start. So in a Game Boy game, it's using those things from the Super Game Boy. Which you're not supposed to do. Ow. Ow, I'm bad. Of course, I did better in testing before recording, but ha, smack, smack. So you do this, try to get a high score. It's a fun little demo-y tech demo game, but it's just neat that it's possible. It's of course, oh yeah, that guy is like, you gotta like fight him. He's a boss. Oh, I died because I ran into it or something. There you go, 129, and that's that. It's kind of neat that there's a game that does that. That's like uses the hardware in ways it wasn't intended, but you can kind of prove that it works. And that's really it. That's all I really have to show you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'd be happy to answer or make new videos or whatever is needed for you guys. I try to get these out once a week, and I'm going to keep doing those as long as I can and try to get, maybe get every single system or something like that. We'll see. There's a lot of systems that it covers. And maybe I'll do some other, types of videos if I get all those done. We'll see how it goes. And I may improve those in future and just do a better video, more polished, what have you, as time goes on and I want to remake them or whatever. But we'll see how that goes. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope this is helpful to you, and maybe I'll see you on another video. Take care.